I'm a jungler in the professional esports scene. After my team went 2 years without a championship, the owner sold us off. The new owner is the guy who used to live next door. He was also my first love. We had a bad breakup. He hates my guts. I was planning to transfer so I could keep competing and earning money. But he cornered me and demanded, his voice sharp, trying to run the second you see me? Do you hate me that much? I never thought I'd see George again. And, of course, he just had to be my new boss. He trapped me in a bathroom stall, snatched the phone out of my hand, and saw my chat with another team's manager. KC Manager Davis, I'm very impressed with you. Your talent shouldn't be wasted. If you come to our team, a spot on the starting roster is guaranteed. George leaned in closer, tilting my chin up. Ryan, he growled, trying to run the second you see me? Do you hate me that much? I turned my head away, avoiding his gaze. I was afraid you wouldn't want to see me, I mumbled. George scoffed. You're right, I don't. But I'm not about to let you get what you want. My head snapped back toward him. What's that supposed to mean? The transfer fee is $50 million. George placed my phone back in my palm. If Manager Davis can afford that, I'll let you go. No player in the history of the league has ever had a transfer fee of over $50 million. He was making it clear he wouldn't let me leave. Even for a star player like me with commercial value and a large fan base, my performance had been garbage for the past 2 years. Plus, the pro scene cycles through players fast. There's never a shortage of skilled or handsome players on the stage. At most, I was worth $10 million. That's the price Mr. Davis had offered. Since I couldn't leave, I had to stay. But I never expected George to hate me this much. Right before the spring season started, he benched me. And the new jungler taking my spot was someone George brought with him. I'd been playing for 3 years and had never once been on the bench. My fans were furious, trashing the management and the coach online. After calming them down, I knocked on the door to George's office. I looked him in the eye and argued my case. Why can't I play? In esports, skill is what matters. I don't think I'm any worse than Edward. Edward was the new jungler. George leaned back in his chair, glancing up at me, his expression blank. Your best result in the last 2 years was 3rd place. Edward might be a rookie, but he's young, he's aggressive, and his mechanics are solid. What makes you think you're better than him? Why emphasize the young part? Then again, he was right. I'm 21 now, which is practically ancient in esports. He's a rookie. Does he have any real game experience? I retorted, unconvinced. He'll get experience once he's on stage. George, if you're not going to let me play, why are you blocking my transfer? I yelled. George looked perfectly calm. What do you think? I asked with a bitter smile. Are you trying to get back at me? Just then, there was a knock on the office door. Edward peeked his head in. George, I think the water heater in my room is broken. Can you come take a look? George's expression softened instantly, and he stood up without a second's hesitation. Outside the office, I heard Edward talking to him in a sweet, almost whiny voice. I'm not used to the food here. I want a steak. Will you make one for me? George's tone was indulgent. Sure. He used to talk to me in that same tone, like he could put up with all my bad moods. I stood there in the office, feeling completely out of place. Is that his new boyfriend? If he has a new boyfriend, why is he still coming after me so hard? I moved in next door to George when I was 8. I was the new kid and didn't know anyone, so some of the bigger kids in the neighborhood started picking on me. George stood up for me and chased them away. We were both from single-parent homes, raised by our moms. He was 2 years older than me, so I called him George, and I called him that for 10 years. He was the perfect kid everyone's parents talked about, good at everything. I was a troublemaker who loved to goof off. He looked out for me and I liked having him around. But I hated studying, which was a constant headache for him. I don't know when it happened, but my feelings for him changed. He wasn't just the boy next door anymore. I stopped calling him by his first name and started using his full name. I got possessive. I wanted to hug him, to kiss him. Every time someone confessed to him, I'd get angry. During my senior year of high school, he not only got into a top university but also won all sorts of competitions. Meanwhile, I was still skipping class to play video games. I slowly realized the gap between us was getting wider and wider. So, I decided to start studying seriously. George tutored me every weekend. Whenever I'd get sleepy and want to give up, he'd lean in and pinch my cheek. If you get a high enough score on your SATs to get into a decent college, we'll be together. My eyes went wide as I stared at him in a panic. Ryan, I accidentally saw your phone's search history. Guys can be together. It hit me then that I'd forgotten to lock my phone while I was studying. And I'd searched for a lot of random, embarrassing stuff. Is it normal for a guy to want to kiss and hug another guy? What do I do if I want to kiss the boy next door? Can two men be in a relationship? After that, I was more motivated than ever. But I was a hopeless case, just not cut out for academics. I was too far behind, and my SAT scores weren't high enough. But on my 18th birthday, George got together with me anyway. I hugged him excitedly, telling him I was the luckiest person in the world. He pulled me into his arms and kissed me. The summer after graduation was the happiest time of my life. George and I were inseparable. We did everything together. I thought we had a long future ahead of us. But that short, happy summer turned out to be the entire length of our relationship. George's mom found out about us. To this day, I still don't understand how. We were so careful, so secretive. She got on her knees, crying and begging me to break up with him. She told me that George's biological father wanted him to formally join his family. She grabbed my hand, pleading with me. Because of me, he's been called a bastard his whole life. His father can give him a better life, help him avoid so many struggles. But if he finds out George is gay, do you think he'll still be willing to send him abroad to study? You didn't know, did you? George has a great opportunity to be an exchange student, but he's turning it down for you. George had never mentioned anything about going abroad. That day, I made up an excuse to cancel my date with him. I went home, completely devastated, only to find my mother having a breakdown. She looked at me in shock, quickly wiping away her tears and trying to hide a medical report. It turned out she was seriously ill and had been hiding it from me. In that moment, I accepted my fate. The next day, I broke up with George. George, let's break up. I've been thinking, and guys being with guys is just disgusting. And I don't want to be the one on the bottom. He looked at me with total disbelief and tried to talk to me every day. I asked a female friend to pretend to be my girlfriend. I held her hand in front of George, smiling and saying, "Your hands are so soft, not like a guy's. Those are so rough." Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the hurt and confusion on George's face. Then, he turned and walked away without a second glance. That was the last time I saw him. The image of his back as he walked away has haunted my dreams for years. After that, my mom and I sold our house and moved to a big city for her treatment. But fate had other plans. Someone found me, said he was a manager for a professional esports team, and invited me to join their academy. I became a pro player. In my debut year, I won 2 championships and an FMVP award, gaining tons of fans. But my career was like a flash in the pan. The next 2 years were mediocre with no major wins. I left George's office in a daze. Being benched meant no prize money. Thankfully, I'd saved up a good amount over the past few years, enough to cover my mom's medical bills. Right before the spring season started, the team manager took me to the hospital. The doctor said I had severe tendinitis in my hand and recommended I take a break to rest properly. Otherwise, I might not be able to compete ever again. The hand injury started last year. I didn't think much of it, but I never realized it had gotten this serious. Outside the exam room, the manager clapped me on the shoulder with a smile. Well, I guess it's a blessing in disguise. Rest up and make a comeback in the summer season. I looked down at my hand and muttered to myself, can I really make a comeback? I'm almost 22. Any sports player's career is so damn short. I should have listened to George back then and studied harder. Speak of the devil. We ran into George in the hospital lobby. The manager greeted him enthusiastically. George was holding a report, and he gave me a cold glance. I peeked at the paper and saw the words insomnia and depression. Before I could get a better look, George casually folded the report. Insomnia? Depression? I looked at him, a little worried. The manager asked, "Are you here for a checkup?" George didn't answer right away. His gaze shifted to someone behind us. It was Edward. George gestured toward him. "I brought him." I breathed a sigh of relief, but I was still concerned. Edward seemed so carefree, just like I was at 17 or 18. How could he have insomnia and depression at such a young age? How could he play well? Then George asked, "What are you two here for?" I didn't want him to know about my hand. Before the manager could speak, I cut in a physical. He let out a sudden, cold laugh but didn't press the issue. After buying our team, George renamed it XLW. The fans joked that it stood for spicy. Half a month into the spring season, XLW's record was all losses. I have to admit, Edward's mechanics were incredible, but his team awareness was low. It's a common problem for rookies. But a match is like a battlefield. No one is going to wait for you to grow up. The public pressure on XLW became immense. People were saying all sorts of things online. I was sitting on the bench with the coach on my left and George on my right. After we went down 0-2, I told the coach, "Put me in." The coach looked uneasily at George. George glanced at me coolly. "You think you can win just by getting on stage?" I lowered my head and mumbled, "At least we won't get swept." "No," George said firmly. "Does he really have that much faith in Edward?" I turned and stared at the side of George's face for a few seconds. I hadn't seen him in over 3 years. He was more mature now and much colder. No, just colder to me. My heart ached as if pricked by a tiny, sharp knife. I looked away, blinking hard to push back the wave of sadness. After the 0-3 sweep, the fans were in a terrible mood. A few extremists cornered Edward after the match, screaming insults and personal attacks at him. George called the police immediately. Outside the locker room, I could hear George comforting Edward. He sounded so patient and gentle. When I first started playing, I was just as lost and helpless. I got a lot of hate too. How did I get through it back then? I thought about my mom's expensive medical bills, and I thought about George, and I just gritted my teeth and pushed through. Asshole. I kicked over a trash can outside the door. "If you hate me so much, why won't you let me transfer? Why make me watch you be so gentle with someone else every day?" If this was his idea of revenge, then it was working. The next day, news broke online that the people who had harassed Edward were my fans. Suddenly, I was at the center of another firestorm. George called me into his office. His brow was furrowed. Fan behavior reflects on the club's image. I raised an eyebrow. "Don't worry, I'll post on social media and tell my fans to chill out. But this has nothing to do with me fundamentally. No matter how bad you feel for Edward, you can't pin this on me. Can you?" George sneered. "So scared I'm going to blame you? There was already a lot of drama about you being benched for the spring season. Now with this, the haters are having a field day. Let them talk," I said, giving up. "I don't care." George frowned. "It's not like you would care anyway. All you care about is Edward. Out of sight, out of mind." I took a leave of absence from the club. My mom was living in a care facility with round-the-clock nurses. She was happy to see me. First, she asked how I was doing, then said with concern, "Ryan, you've lost weight. I've been looking for your live streams, but why haven't I seen you in any matches?" Not wanting her to worry, I lied. "I forgot to tell you, I'm playing in a different tournament. It's not streamed, you can only watch it live. My Ryan is so amazing," she praised. I looked down, fighting back the sting in my eyes. The afternoon sun was warm, and I pushed my mom's wheelchair around the garden. Of all the rotten luck, I ran into George and Edward even hiding out here. My mom had always liked George, so she was surprised and happy to see him, pulling him aside to ask a million questions. "It's been over 3 years. Where did you and your mom move to? You never even left a new number." George crouched down, speaking gently. "We moved to Boston. My mom misses you too. She talks about you all the time." I stood off to the side, lost in thought. So he didn't go abroad? I didn't notice that George had taken out his phone and exchanged numbers with my mom. "Oh, by the way, George, what are you doing here?" George glanced back at Edward and told him to say hello. "I'm here with my cousin to visit our uncle." I looked at Edward in surprise. His cousin? I'd never heard him mention having a cousin before. All my jealousy over the past few weeks felt like a joke. Then again, if it wasn't Edward, it would have been someone else. A couple of days later, my mom texted me, "Ryan, your friend George came to visit me today. He asked me a lot of questions. He asked when I got sick, and if our sudden move had anything to do with it. I don't know what happened between you two, but I can tell he cares about you a lot. He kept asking how you've been these past 3 years. If you have time, you should talk to him. You've known each other for so long, and I'd hate to see you become strangers." I stared at the messages, feeling anxious. He's not going to figure something out, is he? It's all in the past. There's no point in digging it up. I spent the next few days on edge because of that. Thankfully, George didn't say anything. I had been worrying for nothing. Edward came to find me on his own to ask for some advice on strategy. I told him everything I knew. When I finished, he said cautiously, "Actually, I'm a fan of yours. I started watching your matches 3 years ago. I felt bad about taking your starting spot since I'm my cousin's +1, so I was afraid to talk to you. To be honest, I think you're a better player than me, but my cousin insisted I play. He said your hand is injured and you need to rest for a while." Hearing that, my eyes widened, and I forgot to breathe. Cleared my throat. "Are you saying George knows about my hand injury?" Edward seemed to realize he'd said too much. He mumbled something about having to get back to training and practically fled. I lay awake until midnight, my chest feeling tight. So he benched me because of my hand? Not because he hated me. How did he find out about my injury? Besides the team manager, no one at the club knew. Unable to figure it out, I sat up and launched a game. I had just finished one match when someone knocked on my door. George's cold voice came from the other side. "Go to sleep." For a second, it was like being back in the old days when he used to look after me. I quietly exited the game, lay down, and closed my eyes. My birthday was going to be busy with a live stream and a club event. So my best friend, came to celebrate with me the day before. I took her out to eat at a restaurant near the team house. "I can't believe I'm turning 22. I lamented. Ever since I became a pro, birthdays have always been a downer. Not only do they remind me of my 18th birthday, but they also mean my pro career is 1 year shorter." And reached over and messed up my hair. "Can you be normal? You're turning 22 tomorrow, not 82. I smoothed my hair back down and laughed. "You wouldn't get it." I glanced over casually, and my eyes froze. The smile on my face stiffened. I saw George walk into the restaurant, his gaze fixed heavily on and in me, and was the friend who helped me with the act 3 years ago to make George give up for good. After George went upstairs and watched his retreating back and said nervously, "I feel like he was trying to kill me with that look. I hear he's your new boss. He hasn't been giving you a hard time, has he? Why do you put yourself through this? I can tell from your face you're still not over him." I picked up my glass and downed half of it. "Can't be helped," I mumbled, and raised her glass to mine. "Ugh, let's not talk about it," she said sadly. In a way, we were in the same boat. Her love life was a complete mess, too. She was in love with her deskmate, who was also a girl. Holding my hand back then was also her way of testing her deskmate's reaction. It didn't work. That day, we both ended up crying our eyes out on the side of the road. Back at the team house, George cornered me. He smelled strongly of alcohol. He'd clearly had a lot to drink. He stared at me intently. "Ryan, do you love her that much? You still haven't broken up after 3 years? Am I that disgusting?" He held up his hand, staring at his palm as if he could see right through it. "Are my hands really that rough? I can't help it. This is how a man's hands are." The more he spoke, the more hurt he sounded. He moved closer, his hot breath on my face. "You were the one who came on to me first. Why did you suddenly say you were disgusted by me? And your mom was sick. Why didn't you tell me? You must have had such a hard time these past few years. Then again, why would you? You don't need me." My nose stung, and a tear rolled down my cheek. I heard the sound of a chair scraping in the training room. They were probably done with practice. I quickly helped George into the elevator and up to the top floor, guiding him into his room. He wouldn't let go of my hand. Suddenly, he glanced at his phone. It's midnight. Happy birthday, Ryan. After saying that, he closed his eyes and fell asleep. He hates me this much, but he still remembered to wish me a happy birthday? I sat in his room for a long time. George wasn't sleeping well. He was frowning and talking in his sleep. The moment my hand touched his face, I heard him mumble, "Why did you leave me?" My heart ached. I couldn't listen anymore. I shot up, ready to flee, but I knocked something off the coffee table. I picked it up. It was a pill bottle. On a strange impulse, I took a picture of it. I didn't sleep at all that night. I looked up the medication. It was for depression and insomnia. Was it because of me? It seemed like he just didn't want me to know about that medical report, so he pretended it was Edward's. The next day, when George saw me, he acted like nothing had happened. His expression was as cold as ever. He must have forgotten what he said last night. I breathed a sigh of relief. After my birthday fan event stream ended, my teammates walked in singing happy birthday and carrying a cake. George was with them. I suddenly remembered my 18th birthday. He had shown up with a bouquet of flowers and a cake, a look of fond exasperation on his face as he said, "Ryan, even though you didn't meet the requirement, I'll still be with you, seeing as how much you like me." 3 years later, he was celebrating my birthday with me again. But we were like strangers. A wave of sadness washed over me. Urged on by my teammates, I blew out the candles and made a wish. I made 3 wishes. I wished for my mom to be healthy and happy, and to live a long life. I wished for George to have nothing but success and a good night's sleep every night. I wished to get back on stage soon and win another championship. When I opened my eyes, my gaze met George's deep stare. I quickly looked away. Our team had a match the next day. We lost again. I watched from the sidelines, anxious. At this rate, we wouldn't even make it to the playoffs. Dying to get up there and play? George had sat down next to me at some point. Yeah, I nodded honestly. "Don't even think about it," George said. Before, hearing that would have broken my heart. Now I gathered my courage. "George, I know you're not letting me play because of my hand injury. I misunderstood you before. I'm sorry." George's expression clearly faltered for a second. "Who told you that?" "No one. I just figured it out." He gave a cold laugh. "Don't overthink it. We were neighbors for years, and you called me your big brother. I couldn't just stand by and watch you ruin your career, could I?" I took a deep breath. "Either way, thank you. And I'm sorry." George suddenly reached out and gently cupped my chin. "What are you apologizing for?" "Everything." He dropped his hand, his tone dismissive. "I don't need your apology." I didn't see George at the team house after that day. I went back to the hospital, and the doctor said my hand was recovering well. It was the only piece of good news I'd had in a while. I went to visit my mom again. She said, "Your friend George came to see me the other day. He brought supplements and fruit." Mrs. Huang in the next bed said those supplements are really expensive. "You should take him out for a meal when you have time." I was stunned for a moment, then agreed. My mom suddenly grabbed my hand. "Ryan," she said emotionally, "I actually know about you and George." My eyes widened as I looked at her. She just smiled at me gently. "I don't know why you two broke up, but I'm sure my illness was part of it. I've been a burden on you. I know how much pressure you've been under these past few years, how hard you've worked. Once, during the off-season, you came to visit and fell asleep on the sofa. You were talking in your sleep, saying George's name." I squeezed her hand and shook my head. "Mom, I've never felt like you were a burden. You're my motivation on stage. Whenever I felt like I couldn't go on, I would think of my mom, and I would think of George." My mom smiled. "Don't always think about me. You need to think about yourself, too. I've looked into it. It's okay for boys to be in a relationship with other boys. George is a good kid. If there's still a chance for you two, you have my full support." I rested my head on her lap and cried silently. "I know, Mom. Thank you." When I got back to the team house, my teammates were scrimming. I started a solo game to practice a new hero that had just been released. After about 2 hours, someone knocked on my door. It was someone from the operations team. "Ryan, it's time to rest your hand." I closed the game, wondering when the ops team got so strict. I was hungry anyway, so I went out to find a newly opened place for a late-night snack. I woke up in the middle of the night with a sharp stomach pain and ran to the bathroom, where I threw up for a long time. I felt a lot better afterward. I thought it would pass, but the pain in my abdomen got worse. I had no choice but to call the ops manager. About 2 minutes later, there was a knock on my door. When I opened it, a frantic-looking George was standing there. He carried me downstairs on his back. I felt awful and had no energy to talk, so I just kept my eyes closed the whole time. I threw up again in the car. Worried about the smell, I whispered to George, who was sitting next to me, "George, maybe you should sit in the front?" He opened a bottle of water and handed it to me. "Stop being so dramatic," he said gruffly. "Is there any pathetic state I haven't seen you in since we were kids?" I had no response. I leaned back against the seat with my eyes closed. Suddenly, I heard George say, "If you're not feeling well, you can lean on my shoulder. When you're weak, you don't overthink things." I followed my heart and tilted my head to rest on his shoulder. The next time I woke up, I was in a hospital bed with an 4 in my arm. George was sitting in a chair, arms crossed, watching me. Food poisoning. His face was dark. He asked me where I had eaten, and I told him. He stood up and made a call. "Since it's a new place," he said into the phone, "it doesn't have to stay open." The doctor said I needed to be hospitalized for a few days for observation. When someone from the ops team brought me my daily necessities, she said to George, "Mr. Xie, I can stay and take care of Ryan." "No need," George said in a low voice. The poor girl didn't know about our history and looked confused, but she didn't ask any more questions. After she left, George looked at me and asked slowly, "You're in the hospital with something this serious. Isn't your girlfriend coming to see you?" I coughed lightly. "She's busy with school." George just scoffed. Once the 4 was done, I felt much better and finally had a chance to check my phone. I had several missed calls, all from Anne. I quickly opened my messages and saw she'd spammed me at 3 a.m. "Ryan, I'm so screwed. I'm so screwed. Good news and bad news. Good news. I'm not single anymore. Bad news. My girlfriend and I were making out at a bar, and your boy George saw us. He recognized me. Ugh. He was so intimidating. I had to tell him the truth. Plus my girlfriend was right there. I didn't want her to think I'm bi and cheating on her. Ryan, I'm so sorry. I'll do anything to make it up to you." I stared at the texts, my head spinning. Remembering what I just said about her being busy with school made me want to crawl into a hole. But I knew and hadn't done anything wrong. I typed back, "It's fine. I just got my phone back. I'm in the hospital with food poisoning. Don't worry. I'm feeling much better after the 4. I put down my phone and turned to look at George, only to find him already staring at me. His gaze made my skin crawl. I pretended I was going to sleep, pulling the blanket over my head and closing my eyes. I'd avoid this for as long as I could. But George clearly wasn't going to let me off the hook. "Ryan, your friend told you, didn't she?" I threw back the blanket and pursed my lips, not answering. "Why did you lie to me?" George continued. I blinked, trying to come up with something. "I didn't lie to you." He raised an eyebrow. "You think I'd believe that?" "Ryan, even if you don't tell me, I'll find out the truth." I remained silent. "My mom came to see you 3 years ago, didn't she?" George pressed on. "She told you to break up with me." As he spoke, he took out his phone. "If you don't answer, I'm calling her right now." Panicked. "Don't call. Don't blame her. She was just trying to do what was best for you." He laughed, a bitter, self-deprecating sound. "Everyone says they're doing what's best for me. Did any of you ever ask me what I wanted?" The atmosphere in the hospital room turned ice cold. George was quiet for a long time before he finally spoke. "I never wanted to acknowledge some rich, powerful father. If he loved me, he wouldn't have ignored me for 20 years. I could have made money even without going abroad. Why didn't you just ask me what I thought?" I looked down, feeling like a kid who'd been caught doing something wrong. "I'm sorry." George sighed and said nothing. The next second, he suddenly pulled me into a hug. "But you were only 18 then," he said, his voice full of resignation. "When did you find out your mom was sick?" "The day I broke up with you," I mumbled into his chest. George's voice was laced with pain. "You must have felt so broken, so helpless." "Yeah." Was it hard, competing all these years? No. Did you ever think about me? I did. How much? Every day. Do you still like me? I do. I was so dazed from his embrace that I just answered whatever he asked. When I realized what I just said, I was filled with regret. Thankfully, George didn't press the issue. But when he let me go, I could tell he was in a much better mood. George took care of me in the hospital until I was discharged. During that time, he would work from my room. The atmosphere between us was awkward and strange. Before I left, the doctor reminded me to get more exercise. Young man, you're not in good shape. People in your profession often eat takeout, sit for long periods, and have irregular sleep schedules. You can't keep going on like this. George listened intently beside me, occasionally typing notes into his phone. After I was discharged, George got busy again. Edward told me he also owned a tech company. Our team wasn't his whole life. I wasn't surprised. George had always been brilliant, but even though he wasn't physically around, his presence was strongly felt. He strictly controlled how much time I spent gaming. I seriously suspected he had an alt account permanently camped out in my live stream. The number of times I could order takeout was also limited. I had to eat at the team cafeteria. I couldn't stay up past midnight. And every afternoon, the ops manager would drag me out to play badminton. It was all so familiar, like I was back in the old days, and I loved it. But a part of me was always worried. If George's mom found out we were in contact again, she'd probably blame me. The team finished in the top 10 in the spring season. Considering our performance over the past 2 years, it wasn't a surprise. The day we were eliminated, George came to the club. He wasn't angry. He just told us to try harder next season. Then the club went on a 10-day break. My mom went on a trip with Mrs. Huang from the care facility. I had nothing to do, so I stayed at the team house. Kai, the ADC from the neighboring KC team, invited me to Duo Q. We had met during our academy days and had stayed good friends over the years. Ryan, gimme red buff. I leaned back lazily in my chair, maneuvering my hero. Go get it, I said flatly. Kai got ganked under his tower by the enemy top laner and yelled, Ryan, save me. Coming. I took out the enemy top laner. That's my boy, Kai praised. We played several games. While we were queuing up for another, there was a knock on my door. George stood outside. Playing games? Yeah. Can I join? I was so surprised I didn't answer right away. Or do you think I'm bad? George asked. Get online, I said. George was in Diamond while Kai and I were at the highest rank, Challenger. I told Kai, hey man, something came up. I gotta go. I switched to my Smurf account and duoed with George. I had always wanted to play with him, but he was always too busy. So his skills were just average and he could only play simple heroes. I didn't expect that after 3 years, he hadn't improved at all. In our first game, George's Ashe died 7 times. I couldn't help but laugh after the match. You're making fun of me, George said flatly. In the next champion select, I said, you play support. I'll play ADC. George obediently picked Yumi. I picked Vayne and he followed me around the whole game. I was unusually talkative, feeling relaxed for the first time in a long time. We duoed for 10 games and won every single one. Afterward, George praised me, you're amazing, Ryan. Hearing him use that familiar, affectionate tone made my ears burn, and I awkwardly looked away. The cafeteria staff at the club was also on vacation. George took me out to eat. After dinner, we walked back to the team house. I suddenly said, George, can you tell me about your past 3 years? We found a bench by the river, enjoying the evening breeze. He began slowly. My mom and I moved. I didn't go abroad, and I didn't formally join my father's family. Besides studying, I started my own business. I failed several times, but I got lucky, and that's how I got to where I am now. George made it sound so simple, but I knew he must have gone through a lot. Ryan, I hated you and I blamed you for these past 3 years, but I never forgot you. My nose stung, and I felt like crying again. George affectionately ruffled the back of my hair. Ryan, let's get back together. Don't worry about my mom. I've already talked to her. He touched his forehead to mine. I tilted my head up and kissed his lips, letting my actions speak for me. My heart and soul began to tremble. This was the person I had dreamt of day and night. In an instant, George pulled me into a tight embrace, kissing me back fiercely. Everyone on the team had gone home, so it was just George and me at the club. After a shower, I grabbed my pillow and knocked on George's door. When he opened it, he was toweling his hair dry. He raised an eyebrow. "If you hadn't come up, I was about to come down and find you." I lay down on George's bed, staring blankly at the pill bottle on the coffee table. George got into bed and pulled me into his arms, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "Don't worry. With you here, I won't have insomnia or depression anymore." I looked up at him, uncertain. "Really?" He leaned down and kissed my lips. "Yeah. You're the best medicine." I returned his kiss, and in the space between them, I finally said what I'd wanted to say since we first saw each other again. "George, I missed you so much." We had missed 3 years of each other's lives. There was so much to say, so many questions to ask. It wasn't until the sun was about to rise that we finally fell asleep in each other's arms. Before we drifted off, George held me by the waist and mumbled, "You used to laugh all the time. You were always so carefree. You've shouldered so much alone these past 3 years. You have me now. You can be as carefree as you used to be." Getting back together with George was something I didn't even dare to dream about. The next time I went to see my mom at the care facility, I told her what happened. She took my hand, tears of joy in her eyes. "I'm so happy for you." After that, George started coming with me to visit her. After the spring season came the summer season. My hand was fully recovered. After getting confirmation from the doctor that I was cleared to play, George put me back in the game. Our original top laner had transferred out. On the advice of the coach and staff, Edward switched roles from jungler to top laner. To everyone's surprise, the change worked wonders. George was in the audience for every single one of my matches. Afterward, he would massage my hand. He'd praise me when we won and encourage me when we lost. This was everything I had yearned for over the past 3 years. In the summer season, our team made it to the semifinals. George gave every player a bonus. We're a newly formed roster. Making it to the top 4 is already fantastic. There are 2 more tournaments left this year with big prize pools. Let's give it our all. I rested my chin on my hand, watching George speak on stage. Only one thought crossed my mind. He's so hot. I want to kiss him. After the meeting, I was a little hungry. I decided to bring up the past, saying in a playfully sarcastic tone, "George, I want you to make me a steak, too." He took me to the club's kitchen and pan-seared a steak for me. "Ryan, I'm sorry. You must have been so upset back then." Seeing him apologize so sincerely made me regret my earlier comment. I gave him a hug. "I was so jealous," I admitted honestly. "But you don't have to apologize to me. In your eyes back then, I was a heartless jerk who used you and threw you away. It's a good thing you didn't just beat me up." My words made George laugh and he ruffled my hair. "Hurry up and eat. I'll make you steak whenever you want from now on." I tilted my head up and kissed his lips. Just then, the kitchen door was pushed open from the outside. I turned to see Edward staring at us, his jaw on the floor. A look of realization dawned on his face. "I knew there was something going on between you two." Later, Edward told me in private. George had personally handled the incident with the people who claimed to be my fans and harassed him. And George had sued all the people who had maliciously attacked and slandered me online. In the next 2 tournaments, our team won the championship. Edward and I each won an FMVP award. I got a huge chunk of the prize money. I bought a house, brought my mom home, and hired a full-time caregiver for her. On the day of the annual awards ceremony, the host announced that I was the player of the year. George applauded for me, smiling as he said, "Go get your award." My FMVP, my pride and joy. I stood on stage in a black suit, holding my trophy and giving my acceptance speech. I thanked the club, the coach, my teammates, and my mom. Finally, I want to thank the most special person in my life, someone I lost and found again. I love you.